Welcome to the lecture of parasitology, where we are going to discuss about this parasite known as Giardia. A short introduction to this particular parasite. The phylum to which it belongs is Sarcomysticiflora. It is a parasite which belongs to this group and it possesses one or more whip-like flagella. So, as they do have flagella, they are known as flagellates. According to its classification, depending that how we classify them is basically on the place they live. So we have two variations in it. So we call them as lumen-dwelling flagellates, which live in a particular lumen like intestines, oral cavity, or also in the genital tract, and also the hemoflagellate, which live in blood and tissue, like as we have seen Leishmania species, which was living in reticuloendothelial system. We might be looking at further in lectures Trypanosoma, which again lives in connective tissue and blood, and again Trypanosoma cruzi, which lives in reticuloendothelial cells and blood. So the lumen-dwelling parasite, the one we are interested in, is Giardia lamblia, which is a habitat of duodenum. The other are written here for your references that in which particular human they would be living. As for our importance, the other one is Trichomonas vaginalis and tenax, which do live in vagina and urethra, and the tenax lives in teeth and gums. So the name of this parasite, the complete genus and species name is Giardia intestinalis, also sometimes referred as Lamblia intestinalis. It was first seen by Anton von Leeuwenhoek by examining his own stool. It was the first person to notice this parasite is Anton von Leeuwenhoek, where he had an examination of his own stool. So he was quite an explorative type of person. He relied on his own sources, so took on his own stool. Also, the name Giardia lamblia comes from two different scientists, Professor Gerd of Paris, yes, Professor Landel of Prague. Now, about its geographical distribution and the epidemiology of the disease cause. It's a protozoan pathogen which is distributed almost worldwide. Usually, this spreads in the area of poor sanitization, especially tropic and subtropic areas. The age group to which it confers is the younger age group. Adults are less affected. And travelers' diarrhea is common among visitors caused by giardiasis through contaminated water. So what happens is those people who come from developed countries, if they do travel to countries which are underdeveloped or which do not have proper sanitization facilities, they do suffer from giardiasis as they would be more prone and they are not immune for these type of parasites. So it is also sometimes referred as the traveler's diarrhea or giardiasis causing traveler's diarrhea. Now, the habitat, as we know, these parasites do live in a lumen. So, all other parasites that we have seen, which live in lumen, that is either in the small intestine or in the large intestine, Scaris, we have seen Scaris also, Antrobius also. So these are few parasites which even the tapeworm also lives in human. So this one particularly it lies in the upper tract. So only protozoa parasite which lives in lumen. So other were not the protozoans. They belong to different phylum, but this one particularly belongs to protozoa, and they live in the lumen of human small intestine. It's only protozoa. Other protozoa that we have gone through was the plasmodium, which and amoeba histolytica. So they don't live. They live in the tissue. Either they are affecting the blood cells or a particular tissue, but here they live in the lumen. So it's morphology. It's very clear that it's a two form, that is vegetative form and the infective form. Vegetative form is also known as a trophozoite. The infective form is known as cyst. First of all, the trophozoite. The shape or the appearance is pyriform, heart-shaped, or tennis racket form. We all have seen tennis racket or the heart shape. The dorsal surface is convex, where the ventral surface is concave and having sucking disc for attachment. Its dimension are 1474 micrometers. Anterior end is broad and rounded, whereas posterior end is tapers to a sharp point. They do have bilateral symmetry. Nuclei is one pair. Flagella with blepharoblast four pairs. Exostyle one pair along the midline. Parabasal medial body one pair, which is actually transverse and posterior to the second disc, and we have falling leaf motility around its long axis. So motility is how they move. So for that, in this pictorial diagram, you can understand if the leaf is falling. So how does it falls? It falls to its long axis, floating in the air. That is how they show their mortality. So this is the appearance. You can see the various descriptions that we have discussed. You can see it will have many flagellas, as you can see caudal flagella, ventral flagella, anterolateral, ventrolateral flagella. So you can see there is a bilateral symmetry. Anterior end is broad and rounded, whereas the posterior end is pointed to a sharp point. Now comes the cyst. It is round or oval in shape, surrounded by hyaline cyst wall, around 12 to 7 micrometers in dimension. Now, what is an exostyle? It's a diagonally placed and form a dividing line within the cyst. So, what is exostyle is basically a point from where the bilateral division or the symmetrical division of the trophozoite form would start. It do have four nuclei clustered at one end or at the opposite, four each pair. You can have this placement. You can see here all the four are placed on the same end, but you can have arrangements like two at the one end and the other two at the other end. Remnants of flagella and margins of sucking disc may be seen inside the cytoplasm of young cysts. An acid environment often causes the parasite to insist. So, quite understandable. This cyst would be passed along with the stool. And once it enters again into the digestive tract, to the oral tract, the acidic medium of the stomach would help encystment of removing the organism from within the cyst to out. Now comes the cultivation. Cultivation is actually a diagnostic technique used to grow this particular parasite in artificial medium. It was actually this cultivation method was discovered by Tereptile and Giardia together with yeast, this Candida guillemondi. The medium used here is chick embryo extract, human serum, Pottinger digest, and hang solution. These are name of the mediums that are frequently used for cultivating this particular parasite. But Giardia usually is harvested or cultivated along with the yeast, which basically, after digestion of the surrounding medium, provides nutrition to Giardia. They are not capable of making their own food. Here again, the immunity and the risk factor, which is common in youngsters and uncommon in women, suggesting that an efficient immunity has developed, both humoral and cell mediated. So now again there are some risk factors associated. If the person is deficient in immunoglobulin A and if the particular blood group is A, achlorate hydria, malnutrition, use of cannabis, chronic pancreatitis, and immune defect, who have certain type of deficiencies. And these are the risk factors that these people would be more prone for development of GRDSS. Now comes the mode of transmission. Here, the infection is occurred by ingestion of cysts in contaminated food and water. So obviously, where the cyst will come from, if the food is contaminated with human stool, and that stool did contain cyst of Giardia, so it is an infection. Direct transmission from person to person may occur in children. Male homosexuals and mentally ill person. So you can understand this. I mean, in children, they don't take care of too much hygiene. If they are super infested with some other infection, they have an itchy anal. If they have defecated, they don't wash their hand. So it can spread from one person to other. Male homosexuals is also commonly seen in male homosexuals, and mentally ill persons they also don't keep too much care of their hygiene, so it is a possibility that it can spread in them too. Now let us discuss about their life cycle. Giardia passes its life cycle through one host, so we don't have a secondary or an intermittent or a other type of host in this, and its infective form is a mature cyst. So approximately 10 to 100 cysts are enough for infection. So ingestion occurs of this. How does the cyst enters into your body? The mature cyst will enter through contaminated food and water. Within 30 minutes of ingestion, the cyst hatches out into two trophozoites. So it's worth mentioning here that how is this cyst broken? So it's in the acidic medium. So two trophozoites will come out. They multiply in enormous number by binary fission and colonize in duodenum. They live in the duodenum and upper part of jejunum, heating up by penocytosis. So here the phenomena of penocytosis is cell drinking, commonly seen in them. During unfavorable condition, encystment occurs, usually in the colon. A thick resistant wall is secreted by the parasite. The cystic cell is then divided into two within the cyst wall. The cysts are passed in the stool, and it may be around 2 lakhs and remain viable in soil and water for several weeks. From there, where it can contaminate water and soil. So these cysts, which are formed under the unfavorable conditions, usually all cysts are formed under the unfavorable conditions. This is how the life cycle of water. So we can see how this has been transmitted. We will see it stage by stage. The first stage you can see here, the cyst is formed. And the cyst will be contaminating as it stays in the soil for several weeks. It may be contaminating food and water. Now this cyst enters into human digestive tract where under the influence of gastric epithelium, it will consist and release two trophozoites. These trophozoites would mature and become an adult, and under unfavorable condition again they will transform into a cyst. But before developing into the adult, the trophozoite will undergo binary fission, development of multiple copies. So many Giardia would be formed. We'll continue about the other features of Giardia in the second part of this